Greetings again, everybody. Welcome back to Dark Souls 2. We're now going to explore Iron Keep, and that item over there is a human effigy. Not worth it. You can of course get it if you have high enough fire resistance, either through armor or using a small orange burr, which is a consumable that boosts your fire resistance, or covering yourself in water, but there's no water around. And yeah, that over there is a bonfire ascetic, same deal, not getting that either. And you can use the pyromancy flash sweat to also boost your fire resistance. But for bonfire ascetic or human effigy, I don't really think it's worth it. Yeah. It just really is kind of tedious to equip your fire resist and boost your fire resist in other ways too. There's only one treasure in this area that is quote-unquote hidden behind some fiery platforms that kill you, that we will actually get. And that one treasure isn't actually in the part of the area we're gonna explore today. Well. So right in here is the first bit of New Game Plus content. That one guy, he's kind of a dick. Especially for us, because we're using a spear, and spears aren't exactly the best types of weapon. Unless you can stun lock people, and I kind of doubt that you can stun lock a Red Phantom with a spear in New Game Plus Plus. So magic it is. Magic actually is really great damage. And since we equip 2 copies of Soul Spear, we can use it up to 4 times. Yeah, that's pitiful damage. This is the winged spear. It's a decent spear. It's completely uninfused at this point because we can't infuse yet. And it will only do acceptable damage if we buff it and hit with a sweet spot. Like so. Two-handing it even stun locks those regular people. Those Alon Knights. They can drop their armor if you're into that. A lot of people like the way it looks, and also their sword if you like katanas. And to get that item, you need to wait until it stops breathing fire for a brief moment, and then you can just do it. However, if you screw up the timing, this will happen. Yeah. There's better ways to do it too. For instance, there's water pots nearby which you can use. Or, still later in the area, you can just turn the fire off completely. But if you want the iron keys early, you can do that. The iron key will open the door that was down on the way to the last giant. The one that we couldn't open. You probably don't even remember it at this point. And I kind of don't know where that guy came from, honestly.
What? Who are you? Who, me? I'm Magerold. Who else? What? Have a look at my wares. I'm mainly a treasure hunter, you see. I'm only a merchant on the side. I roam about, looking for a find, following me instincts. I don't care what a thing's worth. What matters is whether it grabs me. Do I enjoy what I do? Well, that's a good question. I suppose I must. I've been doing it for ages. There's good iron in these parts. An old king even used it to build a castle. But the thing was too heavy. It slowly sank into the ground. Fire spouted from the earth, and the place turned into this. At least, that's what I've been told. Not a bad story, eh? So, what'll it be? Anything for you today? Hey, you know that old fella with the hulking blue sword? He talks really highly of it. I got a feeling it's a fake. I didn't want to disappoint him, so I just sort of talked around it. Let me just say, there are lots of legendary swords out there. Have you heard of the shrine on the eastern edge of Drang Lake? Built to honor the dragons, they say. If only I knew how to get there. I'd go and I'd claim it for goodies.
So Magerold here sells us quite a few things. One of them is the Chester set. Each piece does a different thing. Like the head increases item discovery and the legs reduce fall damage. Basically pretty useful effects on each of them if you wear the full set. He also sells one fragrant branch of yore, which you will probably want to get sooner or later. And of course, he is the NPC that allows us to lower the requirements of our spells with spices.
Very well. No pressure.
If you use a spice on something, by the way, weapon buffs are the best option, because those don't actually scale with intelligence or faith or any stat for that matter. They just give you a flat boost no matter what your stats are. So you can really benefit from that. And up here are actually these pots, which contain water, and if you roll into them, we are drenched in water. And we now have higher fire resist, so if I had covered myself in water first and then tried to get that key from that fiery statue there, I would probably have survived, even when fucking up the timing. But this is still the not so ideal way to do it. As I said, you can turn off the fire completely later on. And you gotta wonder why they place a ballista right here, where it can hit someone in the back. It's in a completely, well, completely out of the way room. And there doesn't seem to be a way to get the ballista out there, or in there, without disassembling it. But oh well, doesn't really matter. And this part here is many a first-time player's nightmare, because you will have to pay some attention. There's plenty of archers here. For instance, up there to the right is the first one. And what I'm gonna do here, because I don't really have a bow or anything, I'm just gonna run and draw out people. I mean, I could use a crossbow or a bow or use magic with binoculars, but such a great distance I think won't work. Now that guy, however, I can be clever and try locking onto him. But the thing is, this type of lock-on will probably break rather easily. Like so, yeah. That was a wasted lightning spear. So binoculars are pretty much the best way to go if you have to deal with faraway opponents and you want to use magic projectiles of some sort. So this area, according to its lore, has sunken into the ground, which makes the fact that it is on top of a windmill kind of jarring, but we've discussed that, I think, in enough detail to just let it lie. So down here, by the way, would normally be a red phantom in Nukem Plus at least. And it's a complete and total bitch to deal with if you want to drop down there. Luckily there's a rather easy way to deal with it. And that's a pretty risky backstep, by the way. You probably don't want to go for it. Ah, down there we see one lone Alon Knight captain. And this is something not everyone knows about. You can attack those and they will explode. If you hit them with a melee weapon, you will probably die from the blast. Now back to spear fun time. As long as you can stun lock them and kill them in one combo, not much of a problem. And down there, yes, I died. Because I approached him from, well, I tried to fight honorably, let's put it that way. kind of was a bad idea with a spear. Because you can't really stun lock those guys when using a spear. But why make it complicated for you if you could just do it the easy way by cheesing them from a range? In Dark Souls 1 and 2, applies to both games, I don't really think there is such a thing as unfairly cheesing enemies. But that's completely up to whoever's watching or playing. And yeah, we pulled the lever to lower that bridge here on one side, and that guy dropped, but whatever. And there is a lever to lower it on the other side too, but I wouldn't do it, at least not until collecting that treasure to the left there, because otherwise you will have to do a fairly difficult jump to get it. And yes, that's one backstab that didn't work. And that's the boss door, by the way, already. Now normally right here there would be Lucatiel's summon sign appearing, but since we're currently still undead, it doesn't appear. But I gotta say right away, even when we turn human later, we will have a small problem, because for some reason Lucatiel's summon sign just doesn't appear. And this is the reason to come here basically. Now we only need to fight the right blacksmith and we can infuse our weapons. And in Nukem Plus there is a red phantom here too, but yeah. Corner of the screen, you see how I dealt with it, rather imaginatively. And that Pharaoh's contraption would produce healing water, but we don't need it. Instead we're gonna explore the rest of the area for now. Of course, this doesn't mean going to the boss just yet. Now that lever would lower the bridge on the other side as well, but don't do it, of course. And that chest there contains the Phoenix Parma, but as I said, we're not gonna get it. The only treasure we're gonna get that is on some burning platform type dealies is one that we're not actually gonna find in this part of the area. And that valve actually, well, made the fire inside that room go away. So let's see what's inside there. Nope. Not dealing with that, at least not with a spear. See, if I had a weapon that did more damage and had a chance of perhaps staggering them at some point, it wouldn't be much of a deal, but in this case, nope. And I very rarely run away from battles, let me tell you. And now we have an easy way to get through there actually. Of course we can't just go through there and then, well, go back up on the other side, because we actually need to use that bridge. But it is a way to actually skip the boss. But we're not gonna skip the boss. This is a let's play after all. We're gonna see it all. And this is where Lucatiel's summon sign would be. But it's not there for some reason. I looked it up, this just sometimes happens for some reason, and I couldn't do anything to actually make it reappear. And this is the Smelter Demon. He is one of the more difficult bosses of the game for most people. Personally, I would like to say that I find him very easy, but as you could see, I died there. I had to pick up my bloodstain. Still, if you know what you're doing, he's not very difficult. Like right now even, he's not hard at all. The only reason I'm having some mild trouble with him is because I try to go close and I have a weapon that doesn't do that much damage. But thankfully we also have Lightning Spear. And oh, by the way, he just did a kind of a power-up motion. This means that the flames from his body now do a little bit of damage to us. And that swing there, that overhead swing, is, at least to me, the most difficult to dodge attack he has. I always screw up the timing. But thankfully I can even block it with my low stability shield, which is the one shield that Molin actually sells for thousands of souls. Now he powers up once more by committing seppuku with his flame sword. The flames from his body get more intense and deal more damage now. And his sword also does more fire damage. In fact, I'm not even sure if it did any fire damage previously, but now it most certainly does. And this overhead swing, it actually produces kind of a fiery projectile in front of him now. So if you're standing far away from him, don't think you're safe. You just roll out of the way regardless. Overall, most of this boss's attacks are fairly self-explanatory. It's just that some of them can catch you off guard, and you need to look for a good time to heal. Because sometimes if you think, yeah, he's exhausted the combo and you try to heal, he'll just stab you. And when he rams the sword into the ground, you shouldn't get close because he will explode. And that's what I mean by fire projectile. But thankfully, we're almost done with him already. All in all, I'm not a very big fan of this fight because you can actually just take damage just by being close to him once he powers up for the first time, and that's pretty annoying. But we did beat him, and he is actually entirely optional. We're gonna see how to skip him whenever we continue exploring the Iron Keep. If you don't skip the Smelter Demon, of course, you get access to this here bonfire. But you can't do without it. The Smelter Sword, forged from the soul of the Smelter Demon, its blade bears the strength of terrible flames, a latent power unleashed by a strong attack. The earth spouted fire and the beast arose from the flames. The short-sighted king was incinerated by the creature in one swing, and his castle devoured by a sea of flames. And it has a special attack, which sets the blade on fire, which you might think is rather nice. In fact, it can be useful, I suppose. It's just that I have never bothered to fully upgrade this weapon and see if it's actually worth a damn. But you know what? We're cosplaying a Smelter Demon, and to cosplay a Smelter Demon we need to be on fire with Immolation, a pyromancy that we didn't actually find yet. What it basically does is it constantly damages us, but it also damages enemies close to us. Overall, it's probably more of a joke than helpful at all, because if anything, it has a higher likelihood of killing you than the opponent. But that's not all. If you go back to Smelter Demon's boss arena after defeating him, the Pursuer will appear, even though we already killed him. So this must either be a different Pursuer or a kind of shadow or reincarnation of some sorts. Just trying to make sense of that here, because Dark Souls has a fairly good track record of making sense with these things. Then again, we're currently in that area that has a transition that doesn't make sense. For actually defeating the Pursuer here again, exact same fight, we do get the Ring of Blades +1, but he doesn't start using magic if you get hit with his Cursed Blade this time around. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode, see you again next time.